episode 28 of Pop Jedi. I'm, of course, Rob DiLauro. With me, as always, of course, is my teammate, Miss JennaSayWhat. Jenna, what is going on?
Not too much, Rob. What's going on with you?
We cannot thank you enough. Just please, if you could, if you like what we're doing, if you're part of the Pop Jedi team, you support us, just hit that subscribe button. It definitely helps us get out to more people. That's the most important thing out of everything. So with that,
I'm so blue. I'm blue from you guys not subscribing. Subscribe. I paid it up for you.
Well, speaking of Jenna being blue tonight, of course, our conversation is going to be about What If. This is actually What If Part 1, because the last 4 episodes haven't dropped yet. So we're going to talk a little bit about the episodes that we have seen. And she's playing the lovely femme fatale Nebula version from the What If T'Challa was Star-Lord episode. And she looks amazing. But we actually just want to get into Top Jedi right now. And, there was actually some pretty healthy amounts of news out there this week. Some really cool stuff. So, Jenna, what's going on in Top Jedi this week?
Well, it looks like She-Ra and the Princess of Power is getting their live action, which I am so stoked about. I know that they've been incredible with the GBLT representation, and I'm really excited to see it. Right now, we're in the very early stages of development over at Amazon Studios. We're hopeful that Amazon Studios will start kind of giving us a little bit more of those details and maybe some casting. I know that there's been some fan hopes, and we'll see, because right now it is the bare bones base of the show. So we'll see what comes in the next few months, but I'm really hoping that they continue on how they did with the cartoon series that was just recently out. Next is 3 Emmy wins for WandaVision. So we got, I know, right? So we got production design, we got fantasy sci-fi costumes, which, as someone that works with costumes, oh my God, did they deserve that so much?
Yeah.
Because, Scarlet Witch's costume,
Yeah.
God, it was so good. And like the second that I saw it, my eyes glazed over, and I was like, Jen, it's too much for you to work on right now. Don't do it. And then my brain was like, but what if it's
Does that also include the 70s garb and the Donna Reed dress and stuff from the 50s and stuff?
Everything. And I really appreciate that. And then, of course, the original music, which is Agatha All Along, which I am a huge fan of. The Munsters, which I am very spoken about, because especially with the new Rob Zombie film coming out, I'm a huge Munsters fan, always have been, always will be. And that song, whenever it started up, like, I felt my soul lift out of my body, because it's so reminiscent of the Munsters, and I just it was everything to me. So I'm so happy for them that they got these big wins.
Well, I think the thing that was really cool about Agatha All Along, aside from just obviously the song just being great and it becoming like a top 5 hit for the show. Amazing. And Catherine Hahn and the writers, of course, that wonderful husband-wife writing team. I think this is actually their first Emmy. They won a few Oscars, I think, before, like for Frozen and stuff like that. But that
warms my heart even more.
But that Agatha All Along song, like, that really excited me in terms of just the fact that we were finally, just from that song alone, we're getting witches in the MCU, which is like, like the more supernatural, mystical, magical stuff, the better. Last in Top Jedi news, we actually had a trailer drop. And you know what? I'm gonna be real. I love the character of Clint Barton, Hawkeye. I love what Jeremy Renner has done with the character. So seeing this Hawkeye trailer, and the fact that it is holiday themed is just perfect. I've always loved Haley Steinfeld. Like, she, her introduction as Kate Bishop, especially from this trailer, just like, it's just so perfect, just that whole like mentor mentee dynamic that's obviously going to happen. And what did you think of the Hawkeye trailer? Like,
I liked it, but I'm still salty.
mm-hmm.
I'm still salty about Endgame because I wanted Black Widow to survive. So like I'm slightly biased. But on the other hand, I am really excited to see what they do with it. I want to see that continuation. I think that's going to be a good continuation of the storyline with him.
Well, I think like this is something we mentioned quite a few times, but it always seemed like Marvel was setting up the Young Avengers, and
yes.
that obviously is eventually going to happen.
Yeah, I think that we said that way back.
Yeah, so if this is like kind of Clint's like passing of the bow, I'm totally fine with it. So next we're going to talk about a show that I don't know if Jen is on the same page as I am, but like I was really super surprised by, in the regard of I saw the trailers, and of course, that Max Fleischer-esque animation looks wonderful. It really does. But I was really honestly thinking that it was just going to be this kind of like this one-shot thing, where they just have a little fun. I wasn't expecting it to be as breathtakingly amazing in regard to emotion, in regard to the dark aspect of it, and just like it's just everything. You know what I mean? It's just it's horror and it's sci-fi and it's fantasy and it's like it plays with your heartstrings at certain points, and like it just knows exactly what it's doing at all times. So a little bit of history. It's real simple. Marvel Comics used to do these issues called What If, and What If was basically like, what if Logan was Hulk? What if Captain America was Doctor Doom? It was just basically like the writers, just having some fun, and they weren't necessarily doing anything that was canonical at all. It was just like, just go nuts, and that's kind of what I was thinking the show was going to be.
I did too, honestly.
But it's so much more than that. It's just beautifully done. It's just so perfect in like so many ways. I mean, yeah, there's a couple missteps here and there or whatnot, but like, that's anything. They would be small little gripes, if anything, for me. So we're going to talk about What If. This is What If Chapter 1. So we're gonna get into the 5 episodes a little bit. Of course, the first episode was it was kind of like a switcheroo episode. Probably the simplest one, but doesn't make it any less important. But if it's what if Peggy Carter became Captain America. What did you think of this episode in particular?
I simp, like, oh God, the second that Peggy was like, all
huge and
like,
sexy.
I need a fan over here, like, but I love it because it did showcase the blatant sexism that was back in those times where they were like, you're a woman, you can't do that. Like, how dare you? Like, and especially like while she's like breaking the prisoners out, they're like, women can't fight. Well, I guess they can today. Like, they're just like, oh, like, and I do like that they put that in there because it was very canon to that time period. And she just took every single one of their stereotypes and she just took them, threw them into the toilet and flushed it. Like, she just annihilated every stereotype that they had in their little brains about women and how they could fight. And she just killed it. And I, like, the whole time I was just like, huh. Like,
wait, yeah, Agent Peggy Carter was always a remarkable character anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
So honestly, like, to me, it would just make sense for her to make that transition.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And I do love the change of the costume where it's, the Union Jack, you know, I like that they did that. They didn't like say, oh well, she still needs to be like Captain America and like put her in, you know, the Stars and Stripes. No, they went traditional with her. Like they gave her her own type of role, and I really I appreciate that.
Yeah, me too. So for people that aren't familiar with the episode, basically in a nutshell, it is Steve Rogers that's you know, supposed to, you know, go into the vault and get the serum. He gets shot, and obviously little Steve doesn't get to make it, and Howard Stark only has one chance for somebody to you know, basically become a super soldier.
He's just
So
the button pusher.
yeah, so Peggy Carter, you know, she decides to nominate herself, you know, in instantaneous moment, which is, you know, completely like you know, against, you know, all jurisdiction, you know, because she is a woman. And you
Yeah.
know, they obviously had, you know, like Steve was supposed to be the chosen guy and this and that. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry when it comes to this particular storyline. It's just kind of, you know, like I said, it's like it's a little switch.
Yeah, it's pretty much Captain America just switched roles. I do like that they did, they gave Steve the mech suit and he was still a part of the team.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
I loved it. And then their like love story still was there, and it's just so cute.
Yeah, which, you know, like that was interesting too, because, you know, of course, you know, like I don't know if you knew this or not, but in Captain America: The First Avenger, when Haley Atwell goes up to Chris Evans when he's shirtless coming out of the tank, she rubs his abdominals kind of, and that was not in the script. Like that was something she just did because she was so mesmerized by his body. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
Yeah. So, you know, and they just kept it in because it just fit. You know what I mean? That she would just be like, oh, you know. But the fact that she can actually just love Steve for, you know, Steve in this, you know, particular multiverse, you know, I think that's more beautiful. You know what I mean? Because
I agree.
Yeah, because, you know, he's supposed to be this, you know, little tiny, you know, guy from Brooklyn or whatever, and yet, you know, like even as powerful as she is, she could still love this, you know, tinier version of Steve
I love
Rogers.
it because it really is like that love story, and like it shows that love, you know, because some people are like, oh, you have to be this certain height, this certain weight. It shows that they truly love each other for like what's deep down inside, which is the most important thing in my opinion. But you know,
yeah,
and I love that connection.
You mentioned Stark Tech that ends up on this episode. Of course, Steve becomes the Hydra stopper.
Yep.
Which, you know, like that, you know, it's a machine that's very similar looking to the Stark Iron Man suit. Just looks, you know, it looks, you know, from that time period. That was another thing that I really loved about this episode, is just like how they really leaned into Howard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They really gave him like, you know, like a personality and shit to do.
Yep.
Like he actually goes on the mission at the end of the show. Red Skull is, you know, part of this, you know, storyline, just like he was in the first Avenger. And he is, you know, obviously trying to dominate the world. He just does it a little bit differently this time. He's actually going to summon a tentacle monster, which, you know, it basically, like, you know, the mythology of that creature actually seems like it comes from Asgardian culture, which is really interesting, you know, because he gets it off the pillar. So, you know, like when it comes to this episode, you know, they pretty much kind of do the same mission, you know, like that was in the first Avenger. It's just, you know, Peggy, you know, doing it with you know, with Hydra Stomper now. And you know, of course, you know, they go to, you know, save Bucky and, you know, the Howling Commandos, and there's really not too many different beats in this one. I think that, you know, the thing that, you know, like it was just basically like, oh yeah, well, you know, it's the same mission, but it's a woman now. So
I feel like it was a good starting off point, to be honest.
How so?
I feel like it was a good starting off point for them to like start the series off with. So it's easy to follow. It's
digestible, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's digestible. It's easy to digest. So like if you're going in and you're, you know, you aren't quite familiar with things, or you kind of remember a little bit from Captain America, it kind of like also like jogs your memory a little bit. But I felt like this episode was probably the best one to start off with.
I absolutely agree, because like it does get it gets a little crazier, as episodes go on. Yeah. So, I hate to say this is like I thought it was wonderful, but when it comes to the actual storylines and stuff, like I think it's probably the more simplistic of, like of the ideas, I guess. So we're just going to go on to episode 2, which of course, is what if T'Challa became Star-Lord. This was a hard one first time around.
It was so hard.
It was definitely hard, but the thing I loved about this one is that, the only thing that was really heartbreaking about this episode was the fact that Chadwick Boseman is gone.
Yep.
But we got to see so many different inflections of him. We got to see his sense of humor.
Yes.
We got to see, you know what I mean? Like his charm. We got to see, like just every different, in this man, in this episode. And as bittersweet as it was just like, like you could tell, like he, again, like he just loved this character, but just taking this, this journey so seriously, even when, just being a voice actor.
Absolutely.
Which is something I don't think Chadwick Boseman like necessarily did all the time.
Right. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the Star-Lord episode, Nebula?
Obviously, we know my feelings on it because this happened overnight. So I really enjoyed it. I think that I felt like he made such a good Star-Lord. Like I wasn't sure because like I'm on the offside where everybody's like, oh, I hate Star-Lord, and I'm like, I really like Star-Lord. But I felt like,
but compared to T'Challa, as the Star-Lord, he really is a piece of shit.
I know, and now I'm like, now I'm torn. But having Cha-Cha as Star-Lord is just like, it makes my heart so warm because he made such a good Star-Lord. Like I mean, like even the relationship that he had with with his chosen family.
Yeah, the Ravagers.
With the Ravagers, and it's just like they like you can tell, like I mean they love Star-Lord, like our first Peter Quill indication or whatever, Peter Quill, but they really 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 loved T'Challa. And it was just like,
yeah, it was kind of fascinating too, because like it wasn't just the fact that I'm hearing Chadwick's voice on this episode. I think I'd mentioned before on the show that like I used to be really great friends with Michael Rooker.
Yep.
And like just hearing his voice as Yondu again, like it was kind of more like like my that's my what I mean, like my buddy, what I mean, like it was just so cool to to see him as an animated Yondu, doing his own voice and stuff. And I just felt all these different emotions from this episode. And
there were so many emotions, so many emotions throughout that entire thing. Like I'm not gonna lie, at the end I just lost it completely, because I was like holding in those tears. I was like, don't cry, don't cry, it's not really that bad. And then at the end I just done, it was over. But like there were so many emotions that you felt, because like we actually lost Chadwick Boseman. We lost Yondu,
like in the pantheon, like, of the history of the franchise.
They went for the kill shot on our emotions on this one.
Yeah, most definitely. And the thing that was so great about it is that like it was just to show you that even as a Ravager, like he was just so regal and diplomatic as a human being that he would be able to turn anything around.
Yep.
Even Thanos' decision, which was like the most incredible thing out of this whole episode.
It sounds like genocide. No.
Yeah, no.
like that whole
Because
thing.
it's random, he said.
It's random. It's not Jenna. And it's just like, oh my God. Like that whole thing just had me going. And I love the fact that they made Nebula have like kind of a more
Like a
normal
relationship with her
upbringing.
father.
Yeah, a better relationship with her father, which like, I mean, she is such a broken spirit in the MCU, and it's just like I resonate with her a lot. The reason I've never cosplayed her is because Bald Caps and I do not get along at all. And I always said that I would cosplay Nebula if I could have hair, and then this showed up and I was like,
Karen Gillan goes in for the full kill, man. She shaves her head. Yeah.
And I mean, with seeing that dynamic where she finally has some love, and like, you know, I know that it's still kind of a weird relationship, a strained relationship, but it's not like it is in the MCU. She has a little bit more of a calm life, like more happy life than what she has in the MCU, where it's just tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. And I was so happy to see her happy. Like that's all I wanted for Nebula.
Yeah.
That's all I've ever wanted for this character.
Yeah. It was just, you know, the whole thing was just fantastic. And, you know, like just, you know, I mean, just seeing all the changes that he could actually make, and even all the, you know, like just turning the Ravagers, you know, kind of into Robin Leach's or Robin Hood's. You know, you know, like their missions were all about, you know, like food supplies and, you know, like helping the population, helping people on other planets,
giving to the poor, which that is such a T'Challa thing. That's just like,
and it's certainly not a Peter Quill thing.
No. Again, it's like, man, Marvel, you're breaking my heart. You're like making me feel all kinds of messed up on this. Like,
so of course the mission is that, you know, like they have to you know, retrieve this you know, basically this, you know, this life-giving you know, device. You know, like I guess it was like kind of like a pill or something that like turns into like, you know, into growth and stuff. They have to get that from the Collector, and of course, you know, Benicio del Toro comes back as this like jacked Collector.
He's huge. Huge.
So according to the lore of this multiverse, like he is the ultimate Kingpin. You know, like after Thanos decides he's you know, not going to do what he's going to do, like, you know, this guy like steps up and becomes like a, you know, like a real like underworld boss. You know, so of course they best the Collector. You know, and I think the other beautiful thing about this episode is that, you know, when Thanos is, you know, basically like fighting the Black Order, which is the security for the Collector, which is crazy in itself to think about. You know, like, you know, he's getting his ass handed to him, and you know, and Nebula like goes back to rescue her father. That was really something.
Again, it makes my heart so happy to see that change. Because again, she's such a tragic character, and I resonate with a lot of those characters, and seeing that dynamic shift from what we saw in the films made me so happy.
Yeah, so, you know, at the end of the episode, you know, they get off the planet, and of course, you know, Yondu and T'Challa are having a conversation with each other because, you know, T'Challa had found out, you know, that, you know, all this time that his father, you know, was obviously looking for him, and, you know, Yondu, to keep him, you know, like, you know, in love with the Ravagers and not wanting to go home, said that Wakanda was destroyed, which was, you know, obviously like that was false. So, you know, they're on the ship, and he basically just tells him that, you know, like you know, like the whole galaxy is yours. You can go anywhere you want to go. You know what I mean? Like, and he decides to go home, you know, to see his family, like after, you know, 20 years. And you've got this really wonderful moment of just, you know, like these two families meeting each other. And, you know, they're all like, you know, they're all having like a meal together, and
it was just so
Nebs is like sitting next to her father as he's talking. He's, still talking the same bullshit. Like, no, it's not genocide.
It's not genocide. It's random. And you're just like, oh my God. And Nebula is just so done with it all. And I just like, it's just like having your dad talk about something over and over. And you're like, Dad, enough. Like, you're embarrassing me. Like, and it was that kind of thing. But I felt like that entire scene was just so wholesome, down to like Yondu basically being like, I don't know where he went, how he got on my ship.
He found me.
And T'Challa's like, no.
He found me when I was lost. Yeah.
You found me whenever I was lost. And just like that, it just was like smacked me right in the heart. And I was just like, that's about the time that I started to cry. That right there was the moment that I just started to like lose it entirely.
Well, yeah. Well, then I was able to keep it together for the for the majority of the episode, but of course we get that our hero, our friend, Crawl at the end. Of course says Chadwick Boseman, and that's when I lost it.
I was already crying, and at that point I just started wailing because I was just like, no, like, why, God, why did you take him from us? Like, he was so amazing.
Yeah. So that gets us into episode 3, which is basically like, what if the world lost its Avengers? I would say, honestly, this is probably my least favorite out of the 5.
I agree. Yeah.
So this is basically, Nick Fury setting up the Avengers Initiative, and it kind of plays out the way it's supposed to play out. There are some really funny moments in this episode, though. I will say that, especially like having Agent Coulson come back, his freaky behind. Jesus, he says some really funny stuff in this episode.
Yes.
But of course,
his hair.
Tony Stark dies. And then you see Thor, getting ready to pick up the hammer. And, if you guys aren't familiar with the lore, if you don't remember, Thor, was banished to Earth, to Midgard as a human.
Yep.
So when Hawkeye accidentally shoots that bow, it kills Thor. But before he walks up to the hammer, Coulson gets a reading on him, and he goes, 20 something, he's gorgeous, sir.
His hair, he's gorgeous hair. He's just gorgeous. Like, I loved that so much, because that just seems like such a him thing to say, like, that we just probably didn't get in the show. Like, I feel like that would have been him actually on the radio, but like that was cut from the show.
Then later he's in the morgue with Thor, and he's just like sniffing him like a maniac, like, oh, he smells like lavender.
even his rotting corpse smells like lavender. It's just like, oh my God, dude. Stop.
Shout out to Lake Bell on this one. Lake Bell, of course, the wonderful Poison Ivy from the Harley animated series. I think she did a great job as Black Widow.
I agree.
Black Widow, obviously, like, throughout all these Avengers deaths, she's the one that gets framed, and she's trying to figure out who it is. Yep. So she ends up, after Thor and Hawkeye and Tony Stark end up getting murdered, she goes to find Bruce Banner.
Yep.
This was an interesting thing, because we have Abomination, of course, in Shang-Chi. And even though it wasn't Liv Tyler actually doing it, but it was actually Betty Ross that shows back up in the Marvel world, which is interesting, because again, this is another Edward Norton character when it comes to the Incredible Hulk catalog.
Yep.
Which is kind of interesting. And of course, in this world, Betty is, she knows the Mark Ruffalo version. Thunderbolt Ross, comes through. He's getting ready to to attack, and Bruce Banner turns into the Hulk. And here's the interesting thing, like, for me, out of this whole episode, seeing the Hulk explode.
Oh my God. I wasn't prepared for that. Not emotionally at all. And I was just like, for a split second, I was like, is this a DC show? That is what's happening. Like, I was just like so completely confused.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that like we just have this story where all the Avengers are getting murdered in the first place. It just showing the fans that like Disney has some testicles. You know what I mean? That like they're really like ready. They're allowing people just to tell the stories that they want to tell, as dark as they could get. And that's another thing I love about What If is that it doesn't feel like a kid's show. It feels like it's geared towards us, the old, you know what I mean, the adult fans. It just happens to be animation. But even though it's not like a ton of gore and nudity and stuff like that, like there's some pretty like wild moments in these shows. Like they're really like leaning into it, and I love that. So of course, she's trying to find out all this information. She gets attacked by nothing. There's nothing in the room. And, she basically she says, hope. It's about hope. And of course, like Sam Jackson, Nick Fury's trying to decipher it. And then it turns out that Hope was killed on a mission, which I think would happen to be, it would be Bucky, the Winter Soldier, that killed her. Because it was it was that same mission from the Winter Soldier, I believe. So Hope, poor Hope in What If.
What the heck? What the heck?
It's like I love it. I love Evangeline Lilly so much. It's just like they really are like not doing Hope any good. Like on this,
they're basically in the Star Trek universe. They're basically Harry Kimming Hope every episode. Like I swear, like in Star Trek Voyager, it was like almost every few episodes they tried to kill off Harry Kim. They wouldn't, but they sure did try every time. And I'm just like, what is happening? Like it felt kind of like that, where I was just like, why?
Yeah, poor Hope.
Why her every time?
Yeah, I know, she's such a sweetheart. I don't understand that. So of course we find out that it was Hank Pym the entire time. And he was using his Pym tech, because he felt that Fury and of course the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were basically just like burying her and not giving her any credit that she deserves, any love that she deserves, any honor that she deserves. And like that makes sense that a father would feel that way. And the other thing that I really liked about it being Hank Pym being the main suspect of these murders is that in the comics, like Hank was not a good guy. He was he was a drunk and he's abusive. He's beating his wife, and so it would make sense that somebody like him would go off the deep end.
I agree.
And just do the wildest like possible thing that he could. Like using his technology just to murder everybody. Oh, then of course, we do have to mention that, early on in the episode, to honor his brother, which is really interesting. Of course, Tom Hiddleston as Loki. Comes to Midgard, and he's just like the usual lovely Tom Hiddleston.
I'll give you a pound of his flesh. No, you're giving me the whole person. I'm like, yes, Loki. Yes.
Yeah. Like he's trying to, like give the whole spiel. It's my glorious purpose, and then of course the phone rings. Nick Fury's phone. He's like, "Are you going to answer that?" Like his sense of comedic timing is just wonderful and amazing.
I love Tom Hiddleston, and I will take him as Loki any way, shape, and form I can get him. So whenever he came out, I was like, yes.
Yeah. So, so it turns out that this fight between Hank, where he's just getting smacked on the ground like a fly the entire time by Nick Fury, who can teleport and flip and do all this stuff. It turns out, of course, it was Loki in the graveyard fight. And because there's no Avengers left, he's just like, I think I'm going to extend my stay on Midgard for a little while. And you see him talking to the UN. And so Loki gets to fulfill his goals of just taking over because there's nobody to stop him.
Exactly.
And And so of course we see Nick Fury by the piece of ice where Captain America is frozen, and he said he says welcome, or welcome back, Cap.
Yeah, welcome back, Cap,
And
or
of
something like
course
that.
Carol's right behind him, like, where do I fight? You know what I mean? And I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
she's ready to
yes.
go.
We're into episode 4 now, and I'm gonna say this right now, and this is like, not because I'm a huge Doctor Strange fan. There's no bias here. This episode is a masterpiece, and really
Oh
just
God, it
shows
was
you.
torture.
It really just shows you, like, where the show is willing to go,
Yeah.
and like, this probably emotionally shipwrecked me more
Oh
than
God.
hearing
Yeah.
Chadwick Boseman's voice, I think.
I think the Chadwick thing actually hit me harder, but like I'm also not like I never really was into Doctor Strange until the movies.
Yeah.
So like I'm on a little bit of a different playing field, but yeah, for me I was just like this is tragic. Like the whole time I was just like, oh no, like
yeah, no, I mean, for me, it's not even just the fact of just being like a comic book fan. Like I just like instantly fell in love with Benedict playing this character, and just to be in a situation where we're seeing an episode where like he did lose his heart instead of his hands. It's just obviously a horrifying notion, but also just it's well, it changes the game quite a bit when it comes to the rules, when it comes to like what we know about multiverses and timelines and stuff like that. But like, it's just horrifying to think that if we had that ability to change anything, and just because we have this like alternate point where you can't erase that, it's soul crushing. It's absolutely soul crushing. So what did you think of this episode in general? Like, not even just like, I mean, you said you're a fan of Benedict's interpretation of Doctor Strange, but like like, what about this episode?
It was hard to watch. Like in the terms of like it was that deep-rooted sadness, and it was just like, man, in a weird way you're like, man, I wish you would have lost your hands and not your girl, because like oh God, like and that like he wanted her to survive so badly, and I do admire that he wanted to save her so bad that he's willing to like sacrifice everything for her. However, like he was warned, he was told not to do this, that this is a pinnacle moment in his time. I feel like if that was me, I would have been like, is there a way that I can say goodbye to her? Like, and
that's the interesting thing. That's the interesting thing that we'll get into, because just to get into a little bit of the backstory here, him and Christine, Dr. Christine, were not, they were not a pair. He was an arrogant prick. She knew that. She did have love for him, but they weren't together. So in this multiverse, Rachel McAdams is absolutely like head over heels in love with Dr. Stephen Strange, and vice versa. So of course, we're put into a situation where, beat for beat, in the same accident from the Doctor Strange movie, where the car does the same flip over the rail and splashes into the water, which of course, instead of damaging him and preventing him from being a surgeon again, it just takes away the only thing he ever loved, which is Christine. And he constantly keeps coming back to try to fix this thing, and
they stay at home. He doesn't pick her up. He like, they go out for pizza instead, like all these things. And I totally feel that. Like, I mean, having someone that you love that deeply, that you would be willing to like relive that same event over and over again, hoping that the outcome's different.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, that's what insanity is. That is,
Yeah.
Einstein said it that, you know, repeating the same thing over and over again, hoping that you'll have a different outcome, but it's never the same, or it's
Yeah.
never a different outcome. It's always the same outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just such a tragic story from like realistically from pretty much the get-go all the way until the end. And you're just like, oh my God, why would you do this to me, Marvel?
Yeah.
Why?
So
What have
he's
I
just,
done to you?
yeah, he's just emotionally shipwrecked. Of course, he gets you know, visited by the Ancient One, played by the amazing Tilda Swinton.
I
And
love her.
me too. And she tells him that, you know, like this is you know, this is a like a point that can't be fixed, because if you were to fix this, it would unmake everything that you know you were eventually going to do as a source of supreme, like, you know, confronting Dormammu, for example. You know, so this can't be stopped. This is one thing in your life that can't change. And you know, so he basically like decides against it, and he goes to the library of Cagliostro, which, you know, basically in the comics is you know, it's a place where, you know, all the, you know, the ancient, you know, sorcery books are held, you know, like you know, all the evil magic and, you know, this and that. And Cagliostro himself, you know, which is, you know, kind of interpreted in a different way. Cagliostro in the Marvel comics was actually, you know, kind of more like a, you know, sort of like an immortal vampire. That was actually based off a real man in history. So when he goes to the library, you know, of course, he's welcomed in by this character that honestly, like, is definitely Cagliostro. You know, like it's his place. You know, like hey, you know. So he, you know, realizes right away that if he's going to bring back Christine, he needs to just, you know, just basically like feed off of all this, you know, supernatural energy and stuff. And this is where things get interesting, you know, because first of all, and this is another theory of mine, so get ready to tack it on the board. This whole story right here, I think, has to do in some fashion, it has to do with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, only because this is the only episode where all the actors from the Doctor Strange movie came back to voice their characters. So they know how important this storyline is. You know what I mean? Rachel McAdams,
breaking it down like that.
Tilda Swinton, Benedict Cumberbatch, Benedict Wong, they all came back. So there has to be a reason for that. You know what I mean? There was nobody like pretending to be, you know, there wasn't somebody voicing a character that they never played before. It was all the original cast.
Yeah.
So I'm really thinking there's something to this, you know, and I think this episode right here is really supposed to like lean the audience in to the fact that you're getting ready to step into Sam Raimi territory, baby. This is exactly what you're going to get. So of course he, you know, ingests all these creatures and he becomes Doctor Strange Supreme, which is a different version of the Doctor Strange that we knew. And we come to find out that Tilda Swinton, you know, again, you know, tries to bend the rules, and she bends the timeline to, you know, like have this Doctor Strange, who I wouldn't necessarily call evil, but you have the other Strange that we know, who understands that Christine is gone and understands that he's not going to be able to fix anything. Like it's all fruitless. So he's not going to do anything to harm humanity, even though this other version of him will. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, obviously there's a huge, you know, fight because, you know, like he's, you know, starting to unmake the world, you know, just to bring Christine back. What did you think of this fight?
Like this was honestly like a roller coaster, and this was like that final loopy loop that's just like, oh boy. Like I honestly was not prepared for this episode, which it means I'm very much not prepared for the movie probably. But yeah,
Oh, you're
I
prepared.
mean, it was intense. It was
Yeah.
intense.
Well, the whole time, like this is probably the only time that I've watched this show, and honestly said to myself, like, like because I love the animation so much, and I'm totally fine with it. But God, I would have absolutely adored seeing this scene in live action. Just.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Just all the colors, with them, just like whipping magic at each other and like,
Yeah.
oof, so
Yeah,
awesome.
it
And
was
poor
intense,
Cape.
and like the whole time you're rooting for like the nicer Doctor Strange the whole time. You also like I felt so bad for the other for like the evil Doctor Strange.
Hmm.
The the Sorcerer Supreme is because of the fact that like what heartbreak feels like, and
Hmm.
he's feeling that so deeply, and you're
Hmm.
just like you also kind of feel for him the whole time, and it was hard to like it was hard to watch because I understood both sides very
Hmm.
well. Eventually takes over the good Doctor Strange and overpowers him and takes him in as well, and you're just like,
Hmm.
oh, this is
He did it.
this is
He
not
did
going to
it.
end well.
Yeah, he did it. And that shocked me because of course, you're thinking like, well, there's no way there's no way he could win, and he does. And it's just like, oh no. Like, so of course, he, like he brings Christine back. And like because of all the evil that he ingested, he looks like a demon like monster, and Christine's like terrified of him.
Oh,
So everything
absolutely.
backfires. She thinks she's in hell, and she
Yeah.
is. Because the world starts to get unmade because of his decision to bring her back.
Yep.
Um, and the other thing that was really cool is that we just we're seeing glimpses of the Watcher. Like it seems like as the episodes go on, you see more and more of him. Like he becomes more
Yeah.
prominent. He's not just a shadow, like in the background somewhere. But of course, like because Strange is so powerful and he read up on him, he
Yep.
tries to like broker a
You can
deal
fix
with the
this.
Watcher. You can fix this, and the
He's like,
Watcher's like,
they warned you.
I can't interfere. If I interfere, then like whatever really horrible thing happens here, it's just going to happen worse somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
nothing I can do. You did this to yourself, he basically says to him.
Yep.
So he gets trapped in, he traps himself in this little gem. Kind of like Wishmaster. That's what it reminded me of. Make your
That's
wish.
exactly what I was thinking too.
Mm-hmm.
That's the exact same thing I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Andrew Devoff from Wishmaster. Yeah. So, Christine just basically disintegrates in front of him. Like, what did you do? And he just goes, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And you just hear his cries like echoing through the gem because there's nothing left. Made it completely.
Yep.
And you're like, that what? And then of course the credits roll, and you're like, whoa, they did that. They really did that. Now we're on to episode 5. This is the last episode, and this is another fun one. I had a really good time with this episode.
Hate
But
zombies.
poor Hope, we'll just say that.
What the
um
heck? Poor Hope. What the
so
heck?
this episode was just called Zombies. That's all it was. And it's based on the Marvel Zombies. Obviously, the first issue was written by the Walking Dead's Robert Kirkman, and then it kind of changed hands, and they, did Marvel Zombies 2, Marvel Zombies 3, this and that.
Yep.
And even though there were little inflections of the comics within this episode, it was just kind of like its own like little fun thing.
Oh, I
Um,
agree. Yeah.
Being somebody who's not a fan of zombies, what did you think of this episode?
It's like, why is it gotta be zombies? Like, come on, man. I don't want this. Um, I enjoyed it to an extent. Again, like zombies freak me out pretty bad. So at least this wasn't like this was a totally different type of zombie film because everybody still had their powers and they kind of still had their wits about them, which made them even more terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh no,
Yeah,
I don't like this.
actually,
I don't like it at all.
in the Marvel Zombies comics, they actually had the ability of speech as well.
Oh no, I don't want
that. So basically, I mean, all there is to say is that Tony and Wong and Strange and they're all zombies.
Yeah,
they're all zombies. This is this is Marvel Zombies. It's like, what if George Romero, and The Walking Dead met Marvel? Like, that's pretty much all there is to it. I do like the team that comes out of this. The fact that
I do too.
it is Peter Parker and Happy and Bucky. Like the team's pretty cool, I thought.
I agree.
That the survivors or whatever you want to call it. So I do like how this actually happens, because it doesn't happen in the comics, but of course, when Hank goes to try to rescue his wife, in this instance, she already has the zombie virus, bites Hank Pym, they go back into the pod, bring the virus back, and I like that premise.
I like it as far as storylines go. I do not like it as far as zombies go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care that Michelle Pfeiffer died. That bums me out, but
no, I can't. Zombies, I just.
Yeah. So of course, we see Scott Lang. He does the famous slap on the hand. It could be the sex scene in Titanic. It could be any zombie movie they could possibly imagine, because there's a lot of hands that slap windows, and you just know that Scott is getting devoured. So that plays in later on. So they're trying to get to New Jersey to get to the military base. That's pretty much the most important thread here. And like you said, it's basically just all these different battles that they have. With Falcon, Zombie Falcon.
I did not like that one at all. Not one bit. Him flying. Nope. No, it's bad enough they're on the ground. I don't need them in the air.
So they're on a train, and Sharon Carter gets bitten, and Bucky, has a confrontation with the zombie Cap, cuts him in half with his own shield, and just like the opposite of what he says in the movies. He says, well, I guess it's the end of the line, that's a cool callback. I like that a lot.
I did like that. I liked that a lot.
And the other thing I did like is they actually used the theory, remember the whole thing with Scott Lang, like what if he shrunk real small and went up into the asshole of Thanos and just like expanded. She did that with Sharon Carter. Hope does that with Sharon Carter, kind of, and she explodes.
And they're like, you have Sharon all over.
You got Sharon all over. And that's when we find out that Hope had a scratch. Hope got scratched.
Yeah.
And of course she's like, oh no, I'm a goner. And you're like, damn it.
Yeah.
Again with this Hope shit.
And I know, what is going on? Stop killing her. What are you doing? Stop it.
Mm-hmm.
God.
So Peter and she have a very heartfelt conversation. This is actually the first time he brings up Uncle Ben in the Marvel franchise.
Yep.
He basically says that he lost everybody: Aunt May, Mary Jane, and like, I think that the thing that Hope said she likes about Peter is that even in the worst possible moments, that he could still smile. You know what I mean? Like, she really like appreciated that about him. So of course we get to our destination. They look outside the train, and it's just like covered in zombies. And they're like, oh, we have to go across that field. And Hope decides she's going to become giant woman, and like basically like hands him across the gate. So they're at the military base, and they realize that the zombies are trying to come across the gate, almost like there's a force field around them. And then of course we see our wonderful friend Vision show up, and they're all excited. Oh, Vision. And he's alone. And basically, tells them that they could use the Mind Stone to, basically like, overturn, the virus or whatever, but he just never had the nerve to. And they're just like, why? And that's when we find out. You want to talk about a frightening zombie? We find out that he's been keeping Wanda alive. And she's been feeding on T'Challa this whole time. So T'Challa is actually missing a leg. Thankful, aside from that unfortunate, business, we do get the voice of Chadwick Boseman again as T'Challa, which was an amazing surprise. I actually thought Star-Lord episode was his final performance. I didn't think that he was going to have any other
parts that he voiced, so it was nice, but it was also like, no.
Yeah, he lost a leg.
Our baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Wanda, as the all-powerful Nexus being that we know, now she's undead and she's hungry. And Vision's, like just been feeding her.
No, I don't like it one bit. However, I thought it was cute because it's like we see in WandaVision the lengths that Wanda is willing to go to salvage their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then here we also see what lengths Vision would go to salvage their relationship. So
and they just never win.
They never win. But like, I love seeing that they, no matter what, they are madly in love with each other, and that they would do anything in the entire universe to be with each other. And that just like, I don't know, it warms my heart in a way, but also like, dear God, her as a zombie, no. Oh, yeah. No.
And we totally forgot that Vision actually has a friend with him. It turns out to be the Futurama head of Scott Lang.
Listen, I resonate with Ant-Man in so many different ways that I was just like, this is great. I like it.
So of course it's Paul Rudd just chewing up the scenery with like dad jokes the entire time.
Yeah, he's like, Paul Rudd is so funny just in general that I'm so glad that he was a part of the What If series, and I'm hoping that they give him more parts because again, I
literally
Ant-Man.
Like what? Literally more parts instead of just a head.
Definitely more parts, but also more acting roles.
The thing I loved about Paul is that he ends up putting on cape, and did he say something like Leviosa or something?
Yeah, he said something, and I was just like, oh my God.
So obviously there was the Harry Potter levitation spell. Yeah. So yeah, he's just throwing dad jokes out there. So there's a battle outside with Wanda, and everybody's just getting decimated at this point. Vision decides that he's going to sacrifice himself again. Pulls the Mind Stone out of his skull, just like Thanos did. And this is the thing that's heartbreaking about this whole thing. Like, even though she's a zombie and she's deadly and all this stuff, like, you could see the pain in her eyes when she sees her love and her bow fall to the ground again.
Yep.
It's just like
again, goes back to show you like how in love these two characters are.
Yeah, it's just like that was one thing I noticed. If you do a side by side of her facial expression in Infinity War and this episode, even as a zombie, you can tell the parallels are there.
Yep.
She's just like,
yep, I agree.
Yeah. So of course, they're trying to escape. They finally catch I think it's a Quinjet, and Banner decides he's going to stick around and he's going to fight. And he, even though he was having issues in the beginning, just like he did in Infinity War with Hulk, he decides to Hulk out. He fights all these zombies. And then you just see this one really cool moment where Hulk is getting ready to slam Wanda and Wanda's slamming Hulk. And you're just like, oh my God, it's a Wanda versus Hulk scene. Doesn't happen.
Yep.
We see them flying over the gate, and then of course, as we expected, Hope Van Dyne is giant undead woman. She grabs the plane, and you're like, oh my god. Oh my god. Not only that, but just the fact that, we got to see Hope in this situation again after seeing her get bit.
No, I don't like it. Especially her being big. Like, I'm glad that they didn't like show a ton of that, because it was just like, that disturbed me on so many levels. I was like, no, I don't want a big zombie. No.
Yeah. So we see Wakanda, and Wakanda, of course, is infested by zombies. And then we get a pan into Thanos, who himself is a zombie somehow.
Yeah, I did not like that. I was like,
and he pulls up a full-on Infinity Gauntlet with all the gems, and you're like, what?
No, that was a moment where I was like, I really don't like this episode.
Yeah, and honestly though, that episode, felt like the only one that could actually, well, like you said, there was a couple that seemed like they could continue, but it feels like this one would. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this one in particular probably would continue. It just didn't seem like this one was finished. So, we've already, they've already inked the deal for season 2. So that, like there is a chance for that to happen. So with that, guys, that is our show. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. You are a king. You are among the stars. I hope we get to hear more of your voice, most definitely, on this particular show. And if you guys aren't watching What If, definitely check out Disney Plus and give it a spin. Even though it's not a live action show, it's definitely worth your time.
Very much so.
And it's very digestible. It's only like a half hour, each episode. We cannot recommend that enough. So with that is episode 28. As we said before many times, please like and subscribe. It definitely helps us get out to more people.
Yes.
Want to thank you again for your continued love and support. We got a lot of things in the works when it comes to, different ideas. We got Halloween coming up, which we're really excited about because we got like so much like really cool stuff to talk about during the Halloween season. And we really just, we love doing this show, and we love this brand that we're trying to build, and really just to, if you guys love us as well, we do love you back. So thank you very much. And that's it. That's Pop Jedi. So we will see you guys soon. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.